Local news, sports, and weather on Wolverine Radio.
All right, moving on, kids. Here we go. We have a special guest here in the studio, which we actually met, I don't know, how long ago? A few months ago.
The ribbon cutting, right?
Yeah. We met at the ribbon cutting that we did here at Wolverine Radio. You came as part of the chamber.
Yeah, yes, I did. So I'm a member of the Norwich Chamber of Commerce.
Yep.
I want to thank you, Mike, for inviting me this morning.
Oh, it's glad to have you. I mean, well, first we should tell this is Renee Benoit, and Renee is part of an organization. This is just one of them, from what I understand. It's Building a Bridge Through Transgender Awareness. And you used to live in Putnam, but now you're down in the Norwich area.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about this organization? We'll get into other things, but tell us a bit about Building a Bridge Through Transgender Awareness.
Well, actually, I have two support groups going, one at United Services in Dayville, Connecticut, and the other one at Bacchus Hospital here in Norwich. And the names of the two groups that are going are the Open Arms LBGT Support Group. They meet on a biweekly basis every month, and the hours are from 5 to 7:30 p.m. One's on Tuesday and the other one's on Thursday, opposite weeks.
Gotcha. Let's talk about you, for example. And this is a totally uneducated, ignorant question, but I'm going to ask it. Mm-hmm. When was in your mind that you were a female?
I started at the age of 13. Mm-hmm. I was quite young. I didn't know quite what was going on at the time, but I knew something was wrong. What do you mean wrong? Well, it just didn't feel right.
Okay. All right.
Yes. So as time went on and going into grammar school, I mean, they used to put us out for recess, and at that particular time, they used to separate the boys and the girls, and they used to have their own things to do out there. So I used to wander off from the boys to the girls, mm-hmm. and then they would take me and put me back to what the boys were doing, but it was. But
you wanted to be with the girls,
right?
Gotcha.
It was very confusing at the mm-hmm. time. Of course, I didn't realize what was happening. But
well, how would you at 13? That's a very confusing age for any kid, no matter what.
Exactly.
No matter what you're thinking.
Yeah.
So you move on through life, and when did you make the decision to live as a woman?
Well, this brings me back to...
but I shouldn't say that, because you always felt like you were a woman anyway.
Exactly.
Okay.
The reason why I started at age 13, but I really couldn't do anything because of... the parents were from the older generation, and I love them dearly. But back then, it was all about lack of education in this whole thing. Did
you talk to him about how you felt?
I really couldn't, because my mother was very sickly, and mm-hmm. I didn't want to speed up her process of, her health issues.
Gotcha.
So I just waited until 2006 after she passed, and then I proceeded to follow through with this.
So you waited quite a bit of time.
Quite a few years in misery and depression, and it was awful. It was just awful.
Right. I can't even imagine.
Yes.
I can't even imagine, but I think you said it perfectly, where really it's education. Education that is needed,
And with the legislature being passed in December of 2011, where they passed the anti-discrimination bill, that kind of cleared the way for all of this. It made it a whole lot easier in going through.
Yeah, I'm going to read an excerpt from an article that was written September 12th, or published September 12th, 2013. This was in the Reminder News, which is now the Current Community.
Yes.
And it just, I'm going to read like the first paragraph. Renee Benoit's life changed the day her mother died. Benoit was 56 years old, and she felt she could finally live the life that she'd wanted to live since she was 13 years old. So this is exactly what she's saying. So for 43 years, that's remarkable.
It was.
How did you survive? God bless you that you did.
Well, it got to a point where experiencing going down the highway 60 miles an hour, taking your hands off the steering wheel to see how far that got me. It was time to do something.
And this was at 56?
Yes. Yeah.
Did you have something, Lisa?
I just can't even imagine that. Well, I guess I can on some level, but to know that for so long, I told you before the segment that I have a young cousin who is transitioning, and it's a completely different world now, and we're only looking back on your life to when you were 56, and how much has changed even in the last decade. So, and it's phenomenal.
It's come a long way.
But so what do you do when you know at 13 and you've got 43 years? I mean, how do you navigate relationships and friendships? How do you do that?
I was completely different than I am now. I mean, I was very withdrawn. I didn't talk to a lot of people. Now they can't shut me up.
I know, before you went on the air, I'm thinking, God, Renee, just shut up. Stop.
So it was very difficult in going through those years of pure hell and misery. It was hard. Survival.
But you did it.
Yes, I did.
It's amazing.
One thing that I do know, and it's across the whole spectrum of the LGBTQIA community, is that substance abuse rates, suicide rates, depression, all of those statistics are so much higher in this community. There's income disparity. Especially if your outward appearance doesn't match, somebody's gender presumption of who you are. There's income disparity. There is still, subtle pockets of discrimination. You see it in small businesses, that those ones that employ less than 20 people and can get away with it.
Right.
In housing, there's still some of that. It's an improving climate, but how do you negotiate that through those years? Before you were Renee, you had a male name, or unless, Renee also in French could be Renee. So,
right.
But
I did have the name change through the probate court and the legal aspect.
Yeah, that's what I see here. I read that in the article too.
Yes.
Your license, social security card, utility bills, and other legal documents. And it says here that it took some getting used to, but it was a huge weight lifted from your shoulders. And then there's a quote from you saying, "I'm ecstatic to be able to live openly and honestly."
Right.
So with that being said, once you started to I only know it's like identify as a woman in public, because I guess you had to live for 1 year before.
Yes, and what that all stems from is what's called the Harry Benjamin Standard Rules, which is the standards of care, which everyone who transitions has to follow these rules to from start to finish. It starts off by the seeking out a therapist or psychologist and learning the full gender that you're going into for a full year. And then after that, you put on hormone therapy, and then the legal aspects of the paperwork that you have to go through the motor vehicle department and all of that. And then the final
It's pain in the neck doing that when you get married. Never mind
true.
this.
And then the final step is the step of the surgery. Yes.
So my question about that is how much prejudice and discrimination did you go through, or did you or were you subject to when you started making the public change?
Well, that even started before. I mean, during high school, the bullying, and a lot of people who transition seem to follow that path in regards to the bullying. And it was very difficult at that very beginning stage, and then knowing that you're going into transitioning, which made it worse.
I still think bullies just need to be punched in the face, because they haven't even hit the tip of the iceberg even today with bullying. And
there again, Mike, in regards to doing these panels that I do in all the colleges and high schools, which I have done, I also have an attorney who comes along with me in regards to speaking on the bullying issues, and her part is discrimination.
Do you work with bully busters at all out of Norwich?
No, I haven't. I've seen him. I spoke to him briefly, but I haven't worked.
I'll pair you up with Deb. She's a wonderful person.
Thank you. That would be great.
That'll be a great contact.
Yes.
Because they do a lot, in New London County as far as, stopping bullying. And basically their whole slogan is be kind.
Yes.
Kindness is really what stops everything.
Very simple.
Isn't it funny how the simplest thing really just... Like your headphones. Don't wear them if you don't have to. Don't worry.
Do you think too that some of the fact that the bullying seems to be? Mike and I have talked about bullying and getting bullied as kids, and there was a little of that. But I think I
beat bullies up. I didn't care.
And you did. I
had friends that got bullied, and I literally would just grab them and push them away. I wouldn't beat them up, but I would put the fear of Jesus in them so they wouldn't bother. Like my friend, little Mike Mackey. Do you remember Mike Mackey?
I remember Mike Mackey, the pina colada guy. Yeah,
exactly.
To this day,
little guy, kind of silly acting, but he had a heart of gold.
He used to sing the Pina Colada song.
Yeah,
that's why he got called the Pina Colada guy.
And he got bullied by a few people.
He was a nice, sweet person.
One time at a football game, I took one guy that was kind of picking on him. I jacked him up against the fence. Now, I was a fat kid, so, I had some, and I was always there because I played the stereotypical tuba in the band. So the fat kid always plays tuba, or he's the catcher in the baseball team. So one of the two. So I just jacked him up against the fence, and I said, you really want to talk to him like that? No. And that was it. And Mike and I became really close friends. After that.
I think, though, that the kind of angry pitchfork mobs are getting bigger because we can do it this way now.
Right.
You can do it anonymously through social media. Transgender people won't be allowed to serve in military. This just popped up on my news feed. If you go to the comments on this article, it just popped up while we're sitting here talking. If you look at this comment and scroll right down to the comments, I'm sure that I can find stuff in here that's bullying and ignorant. So, and it won't have anything to do with the debate of transgender people being in the military. It will immediately go to, like I call it, the pitchfork and torch mentality. Because we can get a herd. And if I write one of those comments here as a cyberbully, I can get, oh, look, 586 people thumbs up to me. Right. And that just fuels me more. So, So we deal with some of that. So
now we've talked about what it was like for you as a younger child a little bit, moving through 43 years of what's going on in my life kind of thing, and then you decide to have the surgery. So you had to live, like you said, for 1 year as a female.
Yeah.
Right. And then you had the surgery. Where did you have the surgery? I don't even think that's really important. How did you feel after the surgery? Other than, probably sore, but I mean, how do you feel?
Yeah.
Emotionally.
It's so much greater now than before.
Yeah.
Much happier. I can lead a normal everyday life and not even think about it, So
that's pretty amazing stuff.
We kind of talked about that a little bit, you and I, when we were texting back and forth last night, about how, like even Doreen and I living together in this community and being pretty well known in the community, we don't spend a lot of time thinking about this identity that we have as a same-sex couple. Mm-hmm. We just feel like a couple, and everybody knows us, and it's like that burden's lifted. And I can remember all of the years of my life from 16 going forward through my marriage to a great guy, a really great guy. Good to see him after the radio show, actually. And it's
Tom Petty. Well, he looks like Tom Petty, so we call him Tom Petty.
I married him because he looked like Tom Petty. He always laughs when I say that, and he promises to come on the show someday.
Oh, wonderful. There's a story.
So, now he's more like Jeff Foxworthy meets Wilfred Brimley. I mean, it's hard to explain. We all age. But you feel like the burden's lifted, though.
Yes.
And for better or worse. And obviously, you must still have places where you'll go to someplace new and have that moment of, are all eyes on me?
Well, I wouldn't go into a biker's bar.
Yeah, probably not, unless you went with one of us.
Right.
And I find the problem, like in my nursing home, people see my wedding band and my engagement ring, and they immediately ask about my husband.
Yeah.
And the generation I work with. So I always say, I'm married to a New London cop. It solves everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
I did have one old person say when Doreen came in to see me one day, said, "Wow, your husband's really short." So
Renee, I'd like to want to take a break real quick right now, and I'd like to talk about your groups that you're involved in.
Very good.
How somebody can go ahead and get in contact with you, and a few other things as well. We're going to go more current now.
Excellent.
With what's going on. All right, we'll be back with more of our conversation with Renee Benoit in just a minute right here on Wolverine Radio.
It's July. It's time for ice cream, and no one has done ice cream for the past 60 years like Hank's Dairy Bar, Route 12 in Plainfield. Cones, shakes, banana splits. Not only are Hank's ice cream treats delicious, they won't break your wallet. For your ice cream, try a Hank Burger, a Route 395 pile-up burger, or maybe even the Dog Gone Wild. And no one does chowder and clam cakes better than Hank's Dairy Bar. Hank's is also the place for great summer events in July, like their Mopar Cruise Night on July 11th and Jeep Cruise Night on July 25th. Don't forget, the Power Wheels Rodeo is back in 2017 on August 26th. Now, with all this going on, you have to go to Hank's Dairy Bar, Route 12 in Plainfield, because Scott's still in the kitchen.
Who are you?
You think that Scott is the only one that cooks around here?
No, I guess not.
We're smack dab in the middle of summer. Go to Hank's Dairy Bar, Route 12, Plainfield.
Some banks say they offer free checking, but when you look a little closer, the account's only free if you don't use other services like ATMs. Simply Free Checking from Eastern Savings Bank has no minimum balance or monthly service charge. And it also comes with free online banking, bill pay, mobile banking, and will never charge you an ATM fee. Open your Simply Free Checking account today at eastern-savings.com or visit any of our branches with offices in Norwich, Jewett City, and Plainfield. Eastern Savings Bank, because it matters.
Other ATM owners or operators may impose a fee for use. Other fees may apply. Carrier data and message fees may apply. Member FDIC.
Wolverine Radio, your connection to everything Griswold cares about.
And welcome back here to Wolverine Radio. Mike Monarski, Todd Staniski, and Lisa Coe. We're going to continue our conversation now with Renee Benoit. It's been a very interesting conversation so far, and I'm sure it will continue to be so. Renee is a part of a couple of organizations, one of them being Building a Bridge Through Transgender Awareness. And I know in my life, why is this not working? In my life, I knew of one other person that was transgendered, and post-op. I know lots of people. I know lots of guys that dress up, as women and stuff. But
that's quite different.
It is different. I want to get into that too. Okay. And this was back when I was working for Verizon Wireless. Huh. Okay, and in front of me there was a lady by the name of Sandy. We started talking, and I think it was either Sandy or Valerie. It was one of the two, but beautiful blonde, just a beautiful blonde woman. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking, and then looks at me and goes, "You don't remember me, do you?" I'm like, "Oh crap." This is true. And he goes, "Well, I used to be Dan Betts from New London. I don't know if you know the former Dan Betts. No. She's a golfer, believe me."
Okay.
I worked with Dan in retail for about 9 years. And I just looked at Dan and I said, "You're hot." I said, "Oh my God." And he came around, and I don't remember. It was Valerie or it was Sandy. It was one of the two. And she just gave me this big hug, and she said, "You remember how I would lose my temper over and over and over again?" And then she would drink. She would go to work, go over to Charlie's Pub in the mall, pound him down and stuff like that. And she said, "I was completely unhappy and I didn't know why, but I always had these thoughts and I never shared them with anybody." Oh. Now a female and happier than ever. So,
and the other thing too is that I'm glad you mentioned that because it brings back a thought that I had after I transitioned. I was invited to my high school class reunion.
Yeah.
And that was, I was almost afraid to go, but I said, well, if I don't go, I'll never know how it would turn out. So I ended up going, and it was like amazing.
Right.
It was completely, everyone was.
Well, they loved you as a person, and they didn't care if you're a man or a woman.
Right.
Yeah. So.
But
what high school?
Plainfield High School.
Oh, God.
Now it gets thicker.
2 strikes, Renee.
That's
it goes along with the New York.
way.
Renee's a Panther.
No way. I'm alumni. Class of 83.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Renee's going, "I'm not talking."
Please, Pat.
I'm not alone here. There are other Panthers in here.
Excellent.
And, the
black and orange.
That championship Thanksgiving Day game team.
Oh, you guys won 1 out of 14 years. Come on, get over it.
Current champs. Sorry.
Right.
Yeah, they've won 1 out of 14 years, and they're like all ballyhoo about this.
Still won.
Doesn't
Come
matter.
on.
It's who holds the title.
Right now?
It's who holds the title, not who had the title.
No, you guys are just renting it.
Thank you.
Oh, jeez, really? It's Griswold against Plainfield right here, right now.
It's on.
It's the throwdown is on. Okay, so do you get strange looks now, or do you just don't care?
At this point, I don't even notice because I lead a normal everyday life, and I go, down the street or wherever.
You are who you are, and that's it.
I just do what I have to do, and
that's awesome.
When I first came out the first time, I waited till 12 midnight and waited to go into Massachusetts to get gas, and then when I get out of the car, I'm looking behind my shoulder to see if anyone was looking. So from that point to where I am today, now it doesn't even faze me.
That's a big step.
Huh? Yeah, huge step. So here's one of one of the pieces of information you handed out to me that you guys go over when you do your panels, building a bridge through transgender. I have messed that word up 4 times now. Transgender awareness.
That's the quote.
The what's the one I was looking at here? Okay, this I think is really important, especially to if you want to be educated on this subject, so you're not ignorant. And I'm pretty ignorant when it comes to this. And
you're really not.
No.
Well, I mean,
there again, it's the lack of education that people have not, because it was never spoken of before.
So, key transgender terms and definitions. And here's a C. A person whose gender identity does not correspond to their biological sex. This has nothing to do with being homosexual at all. And I think that's a big disconnect with people. I think they think that if women dress as men and vice versa, then they're gay.
Yeah.
You know?
They assume that.
Right. My mother was gay for 30 years, in a relationship until she died. Never once did she dress like a dude.
Yep.
However,
Doreen won't even wear women's socks. Honey, I know you're listening in that, nice police station. But Doreen won't even have a girl job. And Doreen really likes girls.
Handcuffs.
And handcuffs. Those are great props.
Yeah,
and I think there's so many variants and so many different combinations. I think one of the big things that Caitlyn Jenner got was, okay, so are you into guys now? And people always default right to that. So it's kind of difficult because they feel like you have to keep answering the question.
I have a question here in regards to Caitlyn Jenner, Bruce Jenner.
Right.
How do you feel about?
I don't feel either way. I just think whatever. To who they want to be.
Okay, as far as being national.
I think Caitlyn Jenner uses it to her advantage, to stay in the media, and also the public eye.
She's also going to be running for governor.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I don't have anything against that.
No, I don't either.
She's a human being.
There was a lot of controversy in regards to when she first came out, and I was just wondering what your thoughts were on that.
Here's 2 things that brings to mind for me. Number one, I got more of a problem with Kid Rock running for Senate in Michigan than Caitlyn Jenner running for governor in California.
If I were in Michigan, I'd be voting for Kid Rock, so you know.
All right. Let me ask you a question. Would you vote for Kid Rock or would you vote for Bob Ritchie?
No, Bob Ritchie.
Bob Ritchie is Kid Rock's real name.
I know. Of course I know.
Oh, okay.
Nobody's going to vote for Bob Ritchie because they don't know who the hell he is.
Yeah.
But Bruce Jenner was an extremely intelligent person.
Well, was? Not dead.
Well, he's not Bruce Jenner anymore.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? He's a very, 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 very intelligent man. I mean, just because he changes over should not change that at all.
Right.
That's what I mean. I could care less. It doesn't matter to me whether you're Bruce or you're Caitlyn.
So he could
run for
be
anything,
or she 100% qualified for a public office.
But isn't there a rumor out that Caitlyn now wants to become Bruce again?
I heard something about that, but I don't know how true that is.
Yeah, I read something like that too.
Yeah, me too. That's 4 of us. Because Lisa's shaking her head too.
Yesterday, I saw a picture of Caitlyn with Steven Tyler, and I heard that they are going to do a remake of Dude Looks Like a Lady, and I am not making that up. You can fact check. So I don't know where we're going with any of that.
Is Caitlyn post-op?
She's alluded to it, I think, that she finally had.
I know when she had the first interview on TV a while back, she was very evasive on that point.
I think she's come closer to a reveal on that. And I don't know if it came out. I didn't read her book. I did watch I watched the whole documentary about it. And I think the most real kind of raw part of that for me, the takeaway, was her interactions with her mother and how it affected her mother, because Caitlin's older than us by a good probably 10 years.
Well,
She's gotta
Caitlin
be
was
close
in
to
the 76
right,
Olympics.
So I think she's got to be
probably about 10 years.
She's got to be in her late 60s, early 70s. But her mom actually, walked through the journey with her, and I thought that was really powerful. And I was telling Mike about this yesterday. While she was transitioning, I had a little interesting conversation with my neighbors about it. My neighbors, he just turned 90, and his wife will be 90 next year. And he looked at me and he said, Lisa, unless you've walked a mile in her shoes, you'll never understand how
Very
she feels.
true.
And to hear it come out of this wonderful person, who, I mean, Doreen and I adore them like they're our own grandparents.
Right.
But loving, accepting, and we talk about ignorance. Mike was saying that he's ignorant about this stuff. And ignorance is not wanting to understand.
Well, I do want to understand.
I would rather have people ask questions.
Right.
And he's asked me some goofy questions, and we have an honest.
But it's
really
not that
honest,
I don't. It's not that I don't have caring for it or anything like that.
That makes you the exact opposite of ignorant when you ask those questions. So.
And it's a good point because when I do the panels, one of the things that we say to these people are. All they have to do is just ask. We are not monsters. We will be happy to.
Are people afraid to ask?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's another piece of information that I'm looking at as well. In your agenda. I don't know if it's an agenda,
outline,
meeting agenda, your outline. Okay. Lack of support from family and community. Individuals often disowned or shamed.
Right. That's another fear that transgender people have in regards to transitioning, because they're afraid of losing their families and fear of losing their friends. Mm-hmm. They think they're going to be isolated from the world. And from my point of view, from what I've experienced, I can count on my one hand. Those are very good odds.
The other thing that it says here is often alienated from church and other community establishments. One of the things that I read in the article that was published, again, back in 2013, was you went to your priest.
Yes.
And,
well,
go ahead.
I was sitting at Mass one Sunday morning prior to Mass ending, and it was running through my mind that in going to the same church for many years, my parents got married there, etc. At some point, I would have had to explain the physical changes, and people would have started wondering what was going on, and would have started asking questions. So after Mass, I proceeded to speak to the priest, which was a very bad mistake.
Why was it a mistake?
Because he literally, actually, in a roundabout way, told me to find another parish to go to.
Oh, okay.
So that
I'd have said, "I'm still coming. I'm going to sit right in front."
that upset me quite a lot.
Yeah.
So I stayed away for 3 weeks, and
because your whole family had been communicants there, correct?
Right. The parents got married there. My first communion there. And,
sure.
So I've been there for a while, and so. There again, it was brewing inside of me for 3 weeks, and on the third week, I'm saying to myself, well, why should I let the priest decide for me? It's my choice. It's God's house, not the priest's house. So I went back that third Sunday, and upon doing so, walking into the parish, I saw this other priest there, and little and behold, that this priest that I had a problem with was they moved transferred to another parish.
How do you like that, God?
So God acts in mysterious ways.
Yeah, that could have been a sign to you saying, "You're right, Renee." Right?
Yeah. Well, I like that's a good point.
It really is, you know, because you never know, I mean, really, the priest tells her not to come back, in not so many words, and Renee goes back, and the priest is gone. Did you talk to the new priest?
I said, "Good morning, Father," and left it at that. Need not to say anymore.
That's funny. That's funny. The other thing, and I think this is the one of the final things that, I'd love to invite you back.
Thank you.
I'd love
to come back.
To talk about.
Yeah, and I think it's just so important to the community, because I think even children, or young adolescents, they're identifying at such a younger age now.
Yes.
Whether that's because the availability of information on the internet, or
the passing of legislation too has helped, in the process. So.
Yeah, or unisex bathrooms. I don't even know if that has anything really to do with anything, but it's just all these things that are changing. So now there are two things. Either the younger generation, either they're actually feeling it, they're really understanding it, or they're just riding the wave of popularity. There's two things there, and I think you got both. And I was actually talking to a teacher yesterday that believed that to be true. There are some that are kind of like, "Oh, this is cool. I'll kind of do this for a little while."
Yeah.
Caitlyn Jenner. And then, next thing you know, you turn around, and then there were other kids that fall into this category: higher rates of depression and suicide.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we don't know this to be true because we don't know what the cause is. We don't. So I'm not going to speculate. Well, I am going to speculate, but I'm not going to say, "Yep, this is the way that it is."
Do they have the? I believe there's the percentage on there on the at the very bottom.
Yes. Yeah. Let me read this. The new study, right here, the new study examined data on 180 transgender patients. That one?
Yes.
Okay. Ages 12 to 29 years matched with non-transgender patients who were seen at the Sidney Borum Jr. Health Center, Boston-based community health center serving youth. Compared with non-transgender peers, transgender youth were found to have an elevated risk of being diagnosed with depression, which is 50.6% versus 20.6%. Suffer from anxiety, 26.7% versus 10%. Attempted suicide, now listen to this, 17.2% versus 6%, 6.1%. And others engaging in self-harming activities, 16.7% versus only 4.4%. So there's a huge difference.
Huge.
Right. Yes. There was a young, I'm going to say a young lady because that's how she was identified. Passed away unexpectedly at her home about, how long ago now, Todd? About 2 months ago, maybe?
Yeah, a month and a half. Maybe.
Yeah. And it was suspected. It never came right out because whenever press releases come out in this nature, it's an untimely death. They don't, there's no criminal aspect to it. Usually when they say there's no criminal aspect to the case, it usually, unfortunately, means suicide. So when you see the facts, you see this young lady or this young boy who identified as a female all of a sudden passes away. You can kind of figure out that it's pretty much suicide. So you kind of wonder, did this person suffer from bullying?
Right.
Was it that they were just confused and how to come out? Apparently, she was very well accepted by her family in the way that she was, and the way that she handled herself and explained on who she was.
Right.
So what was it? Was it? Do you think that's more of an inner strife kind of thing?
I think so.
You know?
Yeah.
More so than...
I can see that. I mean, think about it. You're young, and you kind of know something's different about you, you know. And you look at yourself in the mirror.
Or different than some, like maybe your best friend, perhaps.
You look at yourself in the mirror every day, and you see a person that you don't want to be. You really would like to be somebody else, but you might be afraid to do it. You might be afraid, you know, of your peers, things around you. So you just sit there in misery every day, not being able to be who you want to be. I could definitely see depression, anxiety, all kinds of things like that, suicide attempts, where you're just so totally unhappy with being yourself that you just can't take it anymore. You know, I totally understand that, absolutely. And I think you said, like, you went many years not being who you wanted to be, and you said you suffered from some bouts of depression yourself.
Very much so.
Yeah.
This is the last question I want to ask you today, you know, before we'll definitely have you back.
Thank you.
Do you find yourself actually acting as a role model for maybe some of the kids in the younger generation that maybe are confused or don't know how to deal with it, that have come to you?
I do a panel at Quinebaug Valley Community College, which is high school students who are taking college-level courses. And I go in there every year for the past 7 years I've done that. I go over all of this stuff. And what the teacher has them do is, after I'm finished, they have them do a letter on their thoughts, whether it be good or bad. And I've been doing this for the past 7 years, and all of them that I've gotten back are all positive.
Good.
So that's been a big help to the, you know, younger generation.
Well, I think that's remarkable what you do, and do for society, and you're just a lovely person. I told Angela. I told Angela from the Greater Norwich Area Chamber of Commerce that I felt bad that I wasn't able to really talk to you the day of the ribbon cutting because you handed me your card and said, you know, and then somebody else said, "Did you talk to the lady that, you know, gave me this card?" And I said, "No, I didn't get a chance." So then we had, you know, a couple events here at the station, and then I talked to Angela the day before the NASCAR. I said, "I've been trying to get a hold of Renee. Do you know if she's going to be there?" You know, and then my wife and I met you again, and you know, we just looked at each other and said, "She's just a wonderful person. You're just sweet. You're just kind." And it's I think you're an excellent role model for the kids, you know, that are confused and hurting, and they should reach out to you.
My thought on this is that, you know, when
adults that are confused and hurting, you know,
when I first started out in this, is that if I can help one other person go through what I went through, a lot easier. That's very satisfying to me.
Yeah.
And that's why I do these panels, etc.
We'll definitely schedule again.
There's
so many more things to talk about.
Yes, that
we could cover in an hour. So, but this has been recorded too. We're going to put it up as a podcast, so people can go ahead, and I'll send you the link when I put it up. So people can go ahead and listen to it if they didn't get a chance to listen this morning.
Thank you.
All right. So Renee, thank you very much for coming on by.
Thank you so much for having me.
Local news, sports, and weather on Wolverine Radio.